How to tunnel vision as a business owner and coach. In this video, I'll exactly break down what to focus on, what not to focus on, how to scale, how not to scale. I'm going to talk about addiction hacking. If you have watched Mark build brands, he talks about it in length as well, but I'm going to break down as well in kind of business terms so you can kind of like put this in your day-to-day life. So I'm just going to start ripping through this. So first of all is that you as a business owner, let's say you're doing 20, 30K a month, right? If you're at that zone, let's say you're doing like 15. In this point, I like to call this point the holy grail of unclarity. This is where you don't know shit. Like, to be honest, you don't know anything. And the reason why this happens is because the path from 0 to 15K is all action. Like, to be honest, if you're going to scale to that amount, which is like 0 to 15K, that's all action. That's just all it takes. Now, some people will be like, no, it requires this, of course. And the reason why it takes action rather than clarity is because if you look at the scale of money, right? Let me just draw a scale. This is a scale of money. So when you're starting out here, what happens is that you have just a lot of confusion. Like the confusion spectrum here is just through the roof. Like you don't know what you're doing. You probably are going to lose money. You're putting things into the wrong places, but that's okay because this is where you start. After you get out of this, like I would say action hellhole, because a lot of the times the mindset shift of, let's say, investing in a $15 application or applying that money or skill into somebody else's program takes you back because you're like, oh my god, it's like $200. Should I really do it? Should I really buy this CRM tool? Should I really track this data? Should I really do this? Is it gonna work? It's not gonna. So that entire battle that you have, it's gonna work and it's not gonna work, causes you to not basically have any action. So that's why people say just take action, take action, take action. Because once you take action, you rip through all the bullshit, you know what's good or bad, and then you go to the zone, which I like to call the unclarity zone. This is where most people plateau, by the way. This is where most people like, they just like get stuck on this for so much longer. And then another one is $50,000, which kind of even I am at. So this causes a lot of issues even with me. So what happens is that I didn't track anything of how I got to 50K. So last month we hit 50K now, but I didn't know anything how I got there. I didn't track anything, which is my fault. Absolutely my fault. I was thinking at the emotions of like, I just made $50,000. Yes, yes, yes. Now, because I didn't track any data, because I didn't do that, I had to put a lot of this money down in my acquisition again, which caused me a lot of stress and just basically having a lot of issues of how I'm going to fulfill as well. Now, I've fulfilled every single client. Things are good, but the acquisition costed me a lot of money. But hence, I tracked. It would have made a lot more sense to get that 50K complete profit, but it didn't happen. Why is that? Because first of all, I didn't know hiring in the sense of, okay, people can get lazy when they get a lot of money, because that's happened to one of my devs. He left. Why? Because he got lazy with the money that came in. That was another issue. And the second thing was that the acquisition side of things just got slow because I was just so fulfilled on doing the client work and managing people, hiring new people. It became a mess. So this month I'm kind of in the stuck part. How will I get out of it? Data. I'll literally sit down, break, okay, what did I do that last month every single day, to even like the food I eat. Like, you guys need to be psychotic about it in some sense, because if you can replicate the success of this $50,000, you can make this every single month. Like, that's the amazing part about business. That's why people say, once you make this much, you're gonna make it. Once you make 100K, it's easier to make a million. Once you make a million, it's easier to make 10 million. The reason why it gets kind of progressively easier after this hellhole you become is because because you have this plateau. So your new baseline becomes this money level that you. So basically, let me just explain kind of in gamified terms. Let's say you have level 1, 2, and 3. Now, in this position that you are with 1, 2, and 3, so getting from 1 to 2, you understand how you did that. So you have a path on here, right? And from getting to 2 to 3, you're going to use some clarities of the do's and don't of 1 and 2 to get to level 3. I hope it makes sense, but that's what you need to do. It's most of the time we're overwhelmed by dopamine and not data, which causes us to get stuck on a point where it just like we're on a hamster wheel. We're not doing anything new. We're not getting out of there. And also there's also something called, which is, you become less risk averted. which causes you to not take any risk. Why? Because you're living that life. And that's why I say it, guys. This is extremely important. Do not be the, you can pressure yourself, of course, like have a ceiling to yourself, but don't make it in a way that it like allows you to not take any risk further on. Or you can be psychotic like kind of I am, or like maybe in, let's say, Mr. Beast, who just takes all of his money, puts it back, and just takes risk again and again and again, which you could do, by the way, and it's doable. And then that's what you and I do. I'll literally spend all my money that I have and then be like, okay, let's try to make it back. It's kind of fun, but like I wouldn't suggest that for everybody because it's just loads of stress. A lot of people, they can get caught up, but you need to constantly take risk. The more risk you will take, it will be more easier to jump the levels. Level 4, level 5, level 6, because now you understand how to hedge yourself against these risks. And also because level 3 is your baseline now, let's say 15K a month, you're kind of okay. You're kind of in the okay spot. You can still make 15 grand every single month. But of course, you're going to lose the cash flow that you have sometimes, or lose a bunch of time, lose a bunch of things, because that's just how testing goes. But this is what you need to do. So tracking data is key. So the number one rule, if you like, you can just literally click off if you want. Data is everything. Data is key. If you're not good at tracking data, you're just messing up. Now, the second part is tracking over the tactics. Now, people have this weird conception, which I never understand, is that, oh, bro, if I just, have this mystical ponytail that I had 2 months ago, I'll make that much money again. And let me kind of elaborate on that. What most people do and they end up doing is that, first of all, they don't even have the data. Like, even I didn't. So, like, I'm not a perfect person. No one is. But what they do is that something irregular happens in their month, which is like a one in a lifetime thing, or like one in months. A unicorn appears at their door. So let me just make a unicorn. I'm not gonna make a unicorn. You guys would be sitting here for 2 hours. So a unicorn appears in their entire business, and they try to replicate this, which never makes sense. So let's say you get a random DM by a guy, you close for 10K. He came in inbound. Now you could track it, try your best to track it. Okay, what did I do to collect this person? You can even ask that person. But to try to put all of your focus into that singular person is 99% of the time dumb. What you should do is ask the person, why did they came through, what did they watch, so you can kind of replicate this as well. I'm not saying not to leave the unicorn. Ask the unicorn questions, but don't completely focus and just blindly be like, hey, oh my God, I need that guy back. I need this thing to happen again and again, because for that to happen, you don't know where it come from. You, again, didn't have the data where it came from. So do not try to chase this unicorn. I see so many coaches do it. It's annoying. Truthfully, it's really annoying, to the point that sometimes I'm like, hey, bro, just stop talking about it. It happened. Wow, wonderful. Your life's amazing. Just stop talking about it, please. Now, let's go to the next section, which is testing old versus new. Testing old versus... I'm getting better at this. Oh my God, I'm proud of myself. Versus new. Now, once you understand this unicorn and this data, now, of course, you're at that stage where you're actually tracking stuff. So what do you do? In this entire manner, you sit there and you still have the one thing that makes you money turned on. Don't turn it off. Never do that. And then on the other hand, while this is going to create cash, you sit there and try new ways of making more new money. I don't mean this change business model or gamble. Like, don't be like Toji. Come on. But basically, you need to sit there, have this data right here, which is making you money. Keep it on. Do not turn it off. So it pisses me off how many times I've seen it where dudes are like, hey bro, this thing made me like $2 million. Do we want to do something new? Because they're bored of it, because they think it's not going to work. Listen, if you're a professional fighter and jab cross got you to the world championship, you're a world champion fighter now. Still do jab and cross. Have you ever seen a fighter throw like have you ever seen in a boxing match guys just start doing weird punches? No. Why? Because jab and cross got him there, so he's still going to do jab and cross. And this is what you kind of need to do. Never turn this off. Always do A and B testing. Because also, what reference point would you have if you just turn this old test off? It doesn't even make any sense. You need to just compare the new model with the old one constantly. Any car company on the planet, when they stop a car prediction. Either, of course, it wasn't just fulfilling anything, but even if it wasn't, they launch a new car, they still are basically processing that car in until the new one is able to catch up with the old one. This is how you work. Let's say an example of, let's say in the gym, this is what I see all the time. There are guys in the gym who would do 15 exercises and then be like, and be working out for 2 years and they look the same. And it blows my mind. How in the world are you going to track 15 things and they constantly change it and reiterate these 15 things over and over again, and it doesn't make any sense? Now, what do you do instead? You pick the 3 compound lifts, you get better at them for 2 years, and then on top of that, maybe you have 4 more exercises. So in total, for the entire body, you have like 3 3 3, so you have like 9 exercises which you focus on for 2 years, and then you move on if you have to. Most of the time you wouldn't have to move on, but this guy who does this 15 things, you know these guys that at your gym who've been training for this for like 5 years and they look the exact same. Why? Because first of all, they are not even testing, and even if they test in such a weird and peculiar manner that you cannot even fathom. But what you do is you pick out the strongest component that you have: deadlift, squat, bench. You do these 3 movements. You're like, okay, these are getting me my results. You still keep doing squat, bench, and deadlift, but then you add maybe rear delts, because rear delts are not usually trained in these. And maybe then this is all gym terms, by the way. And maybe for quads, you do calves, which are decent, by the way. They're okay. I don't really train them because they're just literally makes no sense. But again, off topic. But you have these three. You still do the 3 exercises. You don't sit there and still do and you're just like, oh, I'm a real delt specialist. I'm a calf specialist. Nobody on the planet does that. And neither do you have to do that. You still do your 3 core main exercises, but you add some more because you see the lag that's happening in there, but you still do the 3 exercises. I cannot emphasize this enough. Keep running the old ones, keep doing the new thing. A and B testing is key. Now, next part, which is more in, more out. So input. Now, input equals output. The entire world will tell you, do not consume any media, do not be a consumer, do not be a consumer. Oh my God, do not be a consumer. That is all BS. You need to be careful of what you input. You need to have a diet. Now, of course, if you're going to input junk food, you're not going to grow any muscle. I mean, you still can, but you will probably have a heart disease and die at the age of 25. If you want to do that, go ahead and please do it, but don't do this. But basically, if you have a diet, which is just all, let's say KFC, you're on the KFC. And what else is a bad food? KFC is actually quite decent though, but it's still, if you eat it every single day, you're gonna die. So let's say you're on the KFC diet. This KFC diet, if you eat it every single day for the rest of your life, your lifespan will be shorter for majority of the people. Now, there might be some exceptions who just eat KFC and are fine, but exceptions don't disprove the rule. But if you're on this KFC diet, the output in your energy levels are going to be KFC. The mental clarity are going to be KFC, which means bad. So it's the picking of the content and not the content itself. Because I see a lot of people get stuck in, first of all, if you're not taking any action, just do that. But a lot of the times people take action thinking like, oh my God, life's going to change. Even I thought that way. Just work hard, work hard. No, you have to work hard and smart and work hard on the right things. If you have a garbage man, right? You have that garbage man and he works, let's say, 12 hours a day. He's a hardworking man. You're respectable. Then you have a CEO of a company that works 12 hours a day. Again, now, why does the garbage man get paid, like, I don't know the average salary. Let's say he gets paid 90K a year. I'm doing a high figure. And the CEO gets paid 100 million a year. Why is that? The garbage man is focusing and working harder than the CEO in terms of physicality, but the CEO has risk. Now, because he can manage risk and take better decisions than the garbage men, he gets paid a lot more, even for working for the same amount of hours. And so what you need to do as well. You need to consume and work at the right things. And how are you going to figure that out? By consuming content. I know a bunch of people who consume a bunch of content and they pick out what they need at that moment in their life, and they accordingly then adjust their consumption in that manner. So if you're watching, let's say you're watching someone who's like filthy rich. Let's say you're watching Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett. I'm not going to write his entire name, but Warren Buffett, let's say you watch him every single day and he's telling you how to invest $1 billion. Is that going to help you? Of course not. That's literally, you're not on that same par. But let's say you were watching someone like me, or you're watching someone else who's telling you how to scale to 50K a month. Is that wrong? Absolutely not, because you take this information and then you basically put it on your output. Where's my output? There it is. Then you put it on your output. And this is how you need to do it again and again and again and again. Because the more you consume, the more you can kind of put it out. If you want to make content, you got to consume content. Unless you're a genius. No baby. Why do you think babies don't write a book? Why do you think that? Babies are alive. Some 3 or 4 year old. Why do you think they can't speak English that well? Why do you think they can't, like walk or even function properly? Because they didn't have the right inputs, because they didn't practice enough. The reason why a kid learns so fast is because he's learning. He's doing something, he's learning constantly. And this curve that you have for learning stops for most people. Most people after school or college do not learn shit. That's why they have shit lives, which causes them to stagnate. If you're smart, you constantly learn, hit plateaus. You're like, okay, oh my God, I'm stuck here. You learn a bunch of more, then you go up and up and up. And this is how your life is. And it's an up and down kind of trajectory that you will have. But at least your trajectory is moving. That's the important part. Most people's trajectories don't even move. That this person is stuck, this person is gone. You are moving. And that happens because you had a right input inside of your mind. Now, I want to make something the last section, which is brain hacking. Now, brain hacking is what I use every single day to work for, like, how many hours do I work? I work around like 13 to 14 hours every single day, and I enjoy it every single day, and I don't get burned out. I don't feel like, oh my God, I need a vacation. I need all this like shenanigans. I don't need none of that. Reason being is because I know brain hacking. Now, brain hacking is basically based on 3 steps. EPS. Boom. My handwriting is so much better, guys. Like, it's absolutely insane. Like, see, input. I'm learning. I'm learning how to write better with mouse. That's why I'm getting better. But brain hacking is basically the ability to make your mind addicted to things that you like. Now, let's take the example of Coke. Now, there are 2 types of people. There's a guy on Wall Street making $1 billion a year, taking that substance. And there's a guy on the homeless shelter and doing the same amount. The reason between the guy and him is that he uses the reward of this drug through work. So when he takes this substance, he uses it for work. That's what he does. But the homeless guy goes around and do a lot of dumb stuff. That's why he's homeless. But the guy who's making $1 billion on Wall Street, he used the same drug and do fantastic things, makes $1 billion. And the reason why is that is because his input and output are different. What he did with this entire, so let's say he take Coke, that's his cue, right? He has his cue, and this cue allows him to turn his mind on, and he just works. So how do you do it? Now, of course, you're not going to take this unless you're absolutely insane. And if you were, you're probably a billionaire. Now, I'm not advertising for any of this. I don't take any of the substance. I just take caffeine. I don't even take nicotine. It really just like doesn't really. I've taken like 20 grams at once and didn't do anything to me. I'm just immune, built different. But let's say caffeine, right? Caffeine is everybody's favorite drug. Everybody loves caffeine. How do you make caffeine work for you? So you take caffeine with the idea of rewarding yourself. Like right now, I'm drinking this cold brew that I have while I'm working. So when I'm drinking this thing, it is a cue in my mind to start working. When I'm drinking coffee, it's a cue in my mind to start the work. And I do this every single time. Let's say I do something wonderful, right? Like I make a bunch of money. So my cue would be, again, just to work. I don't go celebrate that win. Why? Because if I go celebrate, my mind will get addicted to the celebration, not the work that it did. Let's say you make $1 billion. So what do? Once you make $1 billion, you're happy, you're motivated, you work more. So your brain's like, okay, I feel euphoric. I feel this dopamine in just running through my veins. How did this happen? Because of work. Same thing goes in the gym. I take, again, caffeine to hit the gym, right? Or sometimes what I did in the past was because I was just not hitting the workout hard enough. But what I would do is I would work out first. I would go to the gym, I would work out first, and then I would take the caffeine the other way around. And why I did that? To reward myself to go to the gym again and again. Same thing you do with pre-workout. Now, of course, pre-workout has a lot of substances that will probably mess you up, but that's not the point. The point is that you need to attach a cue or a substance, either the end or the start of your work or your gym, whatever you're trying to accomplish. So, what you do is that whatever you like, let's say White Monster. I love White Monster. I think most of the people listening to me probably drink it. You only drink White Monster if you're working, or when you finish work, or when you start work. It needs to be related to your work always and not just at random times. You're not going to drink the White Monster when you're watching TV or you're eating food, whatever you're doing. Okay, I finished my work. I'm going to finish this YouTube video. I'm going to do 10 more tasks. I'm going to drink my White Monster. That's my reward. And so you can do again and again and again and add these cues. And you can play around with the substances that you want. Now, don't become addicted to the substance, become addicted to what's it attached. Because what this will do is will give you a baseline. And as soon as you don't hit this baseline, your body will tell you, hey, bro, something is wrong. What we need to do? Oh yeah, we need to work. So when you start to get addicted to the substances and you add that cue, your mind's like, okay, let's work to get to this next level. And then you just start working for hours on end and it becomes fun. And then you're at your baseline, you feel peaceful, you feel good. Like I go to bed every single day tired. And my purpose for that is that I can sit there and work all day and then have that peacefulness that I worked continuously for hours on end. And this is what you guys need to do the same thing. And you can kind of like stack it up. Like, you can have music, lighting, wallpapers, even some people do that. I've seen wallpapers are kind of like a weird one, but like what people do is that they'll put on a certain sort of theme like in their room or on their desktop, and then they're like on like having cues. So it could be anything. It could be music, it could be caffeine, it could be anything. I don't suggest like consumption of music like that much. You should like all just like listen to beats. Don't send the lyrics while you're gonna do it because they're gonna get stuck in your mind later on. Be really, really careful of your inputs. And yeah, this is the entire video. Now, focus isn't the result of success. Focus is the result of your energy. So, what do I mean by? Let me elaborate. Most people think that if I focus, I'll be successful. No. If I am focused, I'll get the energy to work on the right things and then be successful. So it's always the output that you have with the input which you have taken and what are you working on. So so my philosophy is you take input, which is good. You learn something new, right? You apply it in your business as your output. But this entire process of money making is done in this vacuum, which is what? Which is the right thing working on. And the start of that thing working on is your inputs being right. So if you're someone who does, let's say, e-commerce, right? Like watching a video on how to do clipping will just not make sense. Or watching a video on how to be a vlogger will just not make sense. That's a bad input. But if you can figure out the input, the output would be quality, and that will result in money. This is today's videos. I hope you guys enjoyed it. A little bit off. I'm trying to like do different styles because I see a lot of people as they have everything. They have every single system implemented. They have everything right, but their entire themselves, they are the biggest bottleneck of your business. So I'll leave off with this quote, which is, "You are the biggest bottleneck of your business."